What percent chance does Georgia have of winning the SEC East? What about their odds to win the conference? Those have been redone, and there are some cool things to look at here as we get ready for the season. That's only 6 weeks away. Georgia, according to Bet Online, is a 5-7 chance to win the SEC East. So they give Georgia a 58% chance to win the league. So I'm not like all of you degenerate gamblers, and you know who you are because you didn't need me to do the math on that. But 7 odds is about 58%. So I'll go with percentages, although you have to realize that if you think they're going to add up to 100, they won't. That's not how this works. So the Gators are 1-1, so they got a 50% chance to win. And the Vols are at 14-1, 7% chance to win. So Georgia, a favorite to win the SEC East, not a crazy favorite. For instance, the Alabama is favored by more to win the West, noticeably more than Georgia is. So let's just get to the SEC West. Fourth best chances, 9-1, 9% odds at Texas A&M. 6-1, that means 14% for Auburn. LSU is 3-1, that's 25% for LSU, and then Alabama's at 5-12 odds, which is about 71% chance to win. So if you go by what BetOnline is offering, the most likely bet is Georgia and Bama, a Georgia and Bama rematch in Atlanta for the SEC championship, and then of course the odds to win the SEC championship are also provided and have been updated. Here are a couple of them. This is a little strange because Auburn is more favored to win the West than they are to win the conference, if I'm reading it correctly. Anyway, to win the West, they had about 14% chance to win the conference. They're 14-1 odds, so that's about 6% chance. Texas A&M has higher odds to win the league, but lower odds to win the West when compared to Auburn. So again, these are betting odds. 12-1, and that's 8%. LSU to win the SEC is 13-2, which is just slightly better than what the Gators are. They're 11-2 odds. That puts LSU at 13%. The Gators at 15. Georgia's 5-2 odds to win the SEC, and that's about 30%. It's a little lower than 30%. Alabama, the betting favorite, 10-13 odds at 56%. So Georgia's slightly more favored to win the East than Alabama is to win the league. So does that sound about right? Now, I want to say too about betting and bettors and Alabama. And Ohio State and Notre Dame a little bit fall in this, but it's mainly Alabama and then probably Ohio State. Alabama gets the benefit of a lot of what's called dumb money. So people bet on Alabama a lot because they know Alabama. So these odds can a lot of times reflect that. For me, I don't think there's much. I mean, the Alabama's favored for a reason, and they should be favored. They host Georgia. I think they host Auburn. Those are big games that they could lose that they're playing at home. I mean, even with 20,000 or so fans, 25,000 fans, that's going to be something that you're helped by playing at home. And we still think in those terms. But, I think this is about right when you consider, Bama is the favorite to win it, Georgia the number 2, the Gators the 3. I do not think Florida is the third best team in the league necessarily, but I think their path is not as complicated as the SEC West. So you all the time see, well, why are Clemson's odds so good? Well, in this case, they play a game a season. That's basically their only possible loss. You can't say that about these SEC schools. You can't certainly say that about Alabama, who has to play Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, Auburn, and if you want to throw Tennessee in there as well, you can. So, Bama's playing two of the best 3 teams from the East. Florida and Georgia, they're not really dealing with that on the Western side. So Alabama has a brutal schedule, and yet still they are the favorites to get there and win it. They're not overwhelming favorites, and you do see here there's some what's the word? There is some deference to Georgia from bettors because whereas Bama has got a 71% chance to win the West, they only have about a 56% chance to win the conference. That shows you that, probably playing Georgia is not going to be an easy situation for Alabama. Of course, that game's in Atlanta. It's neutral. But it wouldn't be in Tuscaloosa. That would also change the dynamic a little bit. A sterile environment at Mercedes-Benz. I always want to call it the Georgia Dome. It's the Georgia Dome's replacement. But, the likelihood of you winning a neutral site game, of course, is always going to go down. What do you think about where these odds are at? I'm going to talk about win totals sometime in the near future. I think this is about right. The bettors are not loving Texas A&M maybe the way that Texas A&M thinks they should be loving them. But, for me with A&M, it's proving time for them. When Georgia's lost their last 4 games to Alabama, and several of those games have been nail biters, okay? Let's see. Hold on now. 18, 17, 15, 12, and 8. Excuse me, last 5 games. In several of those games, 3 of those 5 were nail biters, came down the last play of the game. For Texas A&M, they've beaten Alabama once. I'm not sure they've played a competitive game against Alabama since. Obviously, LSU winning for the first time in almost a decade. Auburn is the team that's had more success against Alabama than anyone else. And guess who's had more success against Auburn than anyone else? Georgia. So it's, they're betting odds. What do you want? What can you say? But they are updated. I mean, here's a couple other ones that are kind of halfway interesting. Texas and Oklahoma are narrowly favored. Oklahoma's narrowly favored over Texas, 4 to 5 odds versus 7 to 5 odds. So again, that would be probably a little bit around the 50% range for Oklahoma. Probably slightly better than 50% for Oklahoma to win it. Texas is a little bit lower than that. But it's always good to see the futures, what's called futures in betting, because it means we're closer to playing. But it gives you an idea of what you should expect coming into a season. At least gives me an idea of what to expect. Georgia and Alabama both will be favored. They are currently favored to get to Atlanta. Will they get there? They're going to both be in one another's way. We'll be there to get you through this season. Dean Legge from Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. And I want to make sure that you check out this 2020 playlist. It's important to know as much as you can about the players as well as the season we're getting ready for. You go into Sanford Stadium, you're going to be wearing a mask until you get to your seat. So that's something that we're going to make sure that y'all are aware of. Thanks for watching. Check out the video, the playlist right there, and we'll see you on the other side.